Well, they talked about visiting the sea, and they discussed two different places. They discussed Southend, and they discussed Cromer. So I had to look these places up on a map. Southend is due east of London. It is at the mouth of the Thames, the mouth of the Thames River. They described it as being muddy. I don't know for reference what it looks like, but the Thames is a tidal estuary, so the tide goes in and out, up and down the river. So what happens is you often have these muddy banks. So it could be rather muddy there. Cromer is to the northeast of London, and as I said, it's quite a bit farther than Southend. Now, I don't know how they would do the transport from London to Southend. It's quite possible that they would take a boat because you can take a small boat up and down a river very easily. Pole barges are often used on the Mississippi River. The same thing could work in the Thames. Otherwise, you could have a horse path and you just run horses alongside the river and you pull the boats. And this is a very efficient way of moving stuff. One of the reasons why America grew so quickly and grew to be so rich is that we have these marvelous rivers like the Mississippi where you could just ship stuff and you didn't have to build anything. So if you wanted to get corn from Nebraska to New York, you didn't have to build a train across Iowa, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. You could put the corn in a barge, float it down to New Orleans, put it in a ship, sail it up to New York. And this didn't require laying down iron rails. It didn't require building roads. It didn't require horses to pull wagons. It didn't require cutting through mountains or blasting tunnels. You just put it on a boat. And a huge amount of America's interior is accessible from rivers and small boats. That's what made New York grow so quickly because it's on the Hudson River. So you have all of this land up the Hudson River that fed into New York. Philadelphia grew for the same reason. It's on the Delaware River and it pulled all of this stuff in. Baltimore grew because it's on the Susquehanna River. So all of these cities were built along rivers so that you could ship stuff in from long distances. Um, Baltimore, as I said, is on the Susquehanna River. People were shipping stuff from Clearfield in central Pennsylvania, right around here, down the Susquehanna River through Harrisburg into Baltimore. So, I mean, this was a great way to send stuff. Bald Eagle Creek runs through the backyard, sometimes almost up to the house. And if I were to put a little toy boat in that river, in that creek, it would make it down to Baltimore. Now, I say a little toy boat because the river, when it's up to the house, yes, it can carry quite a bit, but typically the best you can get is a tube, like an inner tube. So you can get in the creek and float down in the tube and then float your way to Baltimore. But here it's not really navigable by anything bigger than a kayak, and even a kayak I imagine would have trouble at spots. So water is a really great way to move things. And anyway, they went to the sea for their health. And this is one of those things that comes into and goes out of fashion. It's like, yes, we must go into the water for our health. And then there's like, oh, the water is bad and will kill us. And yes, there can be some very bad things in the water. There are flesh eating bacteria, there's all sorts of diseases that can be carried in the water. But for the most part, those are not usual things that happen to people. Um, it happens rarely, it happens occasionally, and it's more bad luck than anything. But there are a lot of health benefits that have been associated with being in the water, being in cold water, especially. There's almost this whole cult around ice water plunges where you go into the ice water and it causes all of the blood vessels on your skin to contract, and then your heart pumps differently, and I don't know. It's a big thing. Uh, Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. I know that cold water definitely wakes you up, because it's definitely a shock to the system. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, gruel. Once again, Mr. Woodhouse and Isabella eating gruel, and she complained that the servant doesn't know how to make it. And you're dealing here with a mixture of flour and water. And really, there's a lot that can go wrong. Um, if you don't have the right amount of flour to the right amount of water, she complain, oh, it's too thick, or oh, it's too thin. And I mean, a lot of this is subjective. And if you measure flour in a cup, you have to sift it first. And you have to sift it the same amount first, because a little bit of sifting and a lot of sifting can double the weight of the flour inside of the measuring cup. Or, if you're doing it by weight, is it a humid day? Because the flour naturally absorbs a little bit of water, so you have 5 to 10% water already in the flour, but you don't know it. And because the flour on the humid day is heavier, that means you're having more water in it, and you think you need to add more water than you normally would, which gives you a really runny gruel. And then there's cooking it, because as you cook the flour, you have these long strands of gluten that start to form. And if you cook it too much, it gets gluey. Actually, that's the way to make glue. There's a type of glue where it's just flour and water, and you cook it up, and you have this paste that you can use to like stick together paper. And it's just flour and water. So if you cook too much, it gets thick. If you don't cook it enough, it's too thin. And do you cook it too much? Do you add more flour? Do you add more water? And if you add flour and water later, then it's inconsistently cooked and it tastes wrong and it doesn't mix well. And there's all sorts of alchemy involved in this, and it is not an easy thing to do. And Mr. Woodhouse's cook has mastered this, and Isabella's cook has not. And part of me thinks that Isabella is just not giving good direction as to what's wrong with the gruel. Oh, this gruel is no good. Well, is it too thick? Is it too thin? Is it... Who knows? But anyway, so Isabella, Mr. Woodhouse getting their gruel. Oh, yes, and Emma talking to Mr. Knightley. At the beginning, she has this idea of like, hey, he's not going to yell at me when there's a kid around. And that was a good way to break the ice. And she's like, yeah, maybe we'll just consider this whole thing forgotten. And then she brings it up. It's like, stick to the plan. The plan was a good one. Have the kid, make a little chit chat. Just pretend you didn't fight at all. She's like, so, I was right and you were wrong. He's like, well, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, but you're wrong this time. You didn't need to bring this up again. Which had been her plan. And it was a good one. Don't fight if you don't have to. Don't pick fights. You just make yourself miserable. And yeah, that time, 100% wrong.